Welcome to Candy's Cupcakes. Today I'm going to show you how to make an Olaf model. So for this you're going to need all this equipment you can see here. So we've got lots of different coloured fondant. We've got white, orange for his nose, brown for the wooden twigs, black for his eyes, and then we need a tub to put them in while we're waiting. We've got a sharp blade, modelling tools, clean paintbrush and water. Then we've got some wire. You can use spaghetti if you need to. The wire I'm using is a Cupcakes one that's used for sugar flowers. I've got a little bit of icing sugar just to dust off my cake board. I've also got a smoother and a rolling pin. Okay, so if we get started, so first of all you want to take a nice chunk of your white and we're going to separate this into two equal parts. Just going to move these to one side for now so you can see a bit better. These are going to make his feet, so you want to roll them into two balls. And put them together. Using your paintbrush and your water or glue, just add a little bit in between just to help them stick a little bit. Next you want to take some more of your white for the lower part of his body. Again, rolling this into a nice ball. And now you want to take the longer wire and pop that in the middle. You can put it in a little bit through. I've got a polystyrene board here just so it pokes through the bottom. It'll just give it a bit more sturdiness so it doesn't tipple over. And then this one needs to go straight through. He's got a little bit of a misshapen squared bottom of his body. Again, you can dab a little bit of glue once you've leveled it up right. Okay. Then he's got a small neck, so you want to add that next. Press it down a little bit. Now for his head, so you want to make sure it's in proportion to the rest of the body. His head is pretty much the same height as the whole of this. It does help to have a picture in front of you of Olaf. You can take a stencil of it if you want to get the measurements exact. So we need quite a big chunk for this. And you want to roll it into a cone shape. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit of icing sugar to my board here. And all I'm going to do is using my fingers is push down at the top part where his eyes are going to be. Okay. Now taking your balling tool, so these are quite commonly found in a lot of stores now. Just want to make little marks where his eyes are going to go. His eyes are quite close together. Might need to remove some of the fondant at some stage. Okay, so now he does have a mouth that kind of sticks out a little bit further. So for this you can use one or two tools. You've got this kind of flat-edged one, or I prefer like this arched one. It's got a little bit of a point on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw his mouth, going all the way across. And you want to press in and up just to create a little bit of a lip. Okay. I obviously don't do this normally with it up in the air like this, but it's just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And in the corners, he's got like a little smile. Okay, you can use the flat edge of this just to kind of smooth this down so that it all blends in, and we're going to remove some of this after. Like so. Okay, so now it does go narrow at the bottom, so just want to cut some of this off, the extra. And then we're going to attach this to our Olaf model. Again, using a little bit of, icing sugar, a bit of water. You might need to add some support behind him because he is quite top heavy just whilst he dries. And then when you do put him on a cake, either lean him against the cake, or you might want to add extra sticks in there a little bit deeper that can go inside the cake. Okay, so what you should start to have is something that looks a little bit like this. I've laid it down so it's a little bit easier for you to see. So now what we need to do is add the buttons and all the other details. So doing the buttons is probably the easiest one. So using the larger ball tool, just make a little indentation there and there, and another one on his neck. Taking your black fondant, this can get quite messy and sticky compared to the others, just because of the amount of colour in them. So don't handle it for too long. We want to add similar size circles, so it helps to make them all up first before sticking them on. Just make sure you're happy with the size. Okay, so I'll add the smaller one to the top, and then the other ones. Starting to look like a snowman, I think. Okay, so now we want to be doing his arms and the hair on his head, which are supposed to look like twigs. So here I've just got some brown fondant, and we're going to need our wires for this as well, just because one of them is going to be waving in the air. So my little trick for this is, rather than making like a tube and popping that in, which you can do, I tend to find that then if you need to roll it any thinner, it's quite tricky, and the fondant kind of comes away from the wire inside. So what you want to do is, using one of these smoothers for your cakes, they're really handy for making sausage shapes. You have to have a little bit of practice with this though. I'm probably making it look a little bit easier than it actually is. But if you just gently roll it backwards and forwards, it creates a very even shape. Right, so taking your sharp knife, we want 2 equal length arms. So again, kind of you can measure it out looking on your picture. So I'm going to do them. Just check that you're happy with that. And this one needs to be a little bit smaller. Right, and at this point we can make his fingers. So I'm just going to add 2 cuts and separate those, and the same with this one. Now for adding the wire to them, what you want to do is very carefully, I am using a sharp blade here, you can just use an ordinary kitchen one, it's just that this does provide a finer cut. So all I've done is cut straight down the middle, not all the way through though, just enough that we can add a little bit of water and pop this in. And then just want to seal it back together. Just give it a little squeeze. Okay, something like that. And then put that one to one side, do the same thing with this one. Probably have done with the wire being a little bit longer in hindsight. Quite fiddly. And then all we want to do is add our water again to where they need to go. So they go in on this middle one here, like that. Okay, so the next part now is to add the hair. So we're going to do the same kind of thing as we did before. If you've got time, then you can leave it overnight to set, which often helps. So for this, I'm just going to do a few different branches that are going to go in the top of his head. Now, taking the other side of your ball tool, you want to add a little hole. So I've gone about that far up the thing. And then using a little bit of water, we can add the branches and wait for them to set. If I was doing this standing up, the model standing up, I'd add more wire to that. It's quite cute. So now you want to add the arms to where you think they're going to go. Again, this bit often helps once it is stood up, I suppose, really. So we've got a little bit of the wire showing, which we can use to poke into the model. Here. Adding a little bit of your water. Make sure his fingers are still separated. And now for his nose and his eyes. So he's a snowman, so he's got a carrot nose. So for this, you just want to use your 2 fingers on the palm of your hand and roll a cone shape. So again, you want to measure roughly how big you want it and chop off the end. Adding a little bit of water again and pushing that down. The bit I have missed out is his teeth. So I'm gonna Get a little bit more of your white fondant, roll this out onto a non-stick board. You want to get a rough measure of this. I'm just going to cut out a rectangle. That's about the thickness of a £1 coin, or a little bit thicker, because he's got quite goofy teeth. I think that's a little bit too thick, so I'm just going to roll that a bit thinner and just make the edges nice and flat again. Okay, that should be right now. There we go, little Olaf, it looks cute. Now if you want to add a little bit more detail onto your carrot nose, you can use the end of the blunt side of your blade and just add a few indentations on the sides to make it look a bit more realistic, the carrot. Now for his eyes, so like we did before, you might want to just make sure that they are the same size before you go sticking them on. Don't want one eye bigger than the other. You'll need a tiny bit of black fondant as well for this. And again, add a dab of water to each one. Pop them in. And then using the small end of your balling tool, make a little mark where you're going to put the black part. Helps it stay on. You'll need a tiny bit of black. Using the bigger end of the balling tool, just push that down a little bit so it's flush with the white. Right, so now you need some little brown eyebrows as well to give them a little bit more character. So you want to roll this quite thin. So I do like a really thin cone shape for this, and then taking a sharp knife, just cut off how big you want it to go. So we only need the thin part of it. And the same on the other side. So I'm just rolling it again with my fingers so you got the nice thin shape. You want it roughly the same size again. It's quite fun with eyebrows, you can play around with the expressions. Hoping that's right and looking at it upside down. Okay, and there you go, there's your finished Olaf. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. It's been good to do. All right, thank you.